as the president of CFAM, what do you think about this return to, the seamless garment, this idea that all issues related to human life and thriving are on par with the pro-life, anti-abortion movement? We see. I thought this was dead. I thought this was Cardinal Bernardin. I thought this was like 1980s. John Paul II buried it, and now it's like, if you don't support total open borders, you're not pro-life.
Right. I would just refer back to the letter that Cardinal Ratzinger wrote to the American bishops in 2004 that said explicitly, you can even disagree on the death penalty, for instance, but you can't on the life issues. I think that there's a renewed effort of this with, people who would consider themselves, and probably are considered Orthodox Catholics, who, and I was just writing about this yesterday, who are uneasy, unhappy, frustrated with the close relationship that has developed between the pro-life movement and the Republican Party. And they think that there are other issues that are important that the Republicans don't care about, and therefore they get short shrift. And this notion that a Catholic has no true home in any political party, which is nonsense. It's a nonsense equation. But yeah, there's this renewed effort to revive the seamless garment. I wrote a column now many months ago asking the question: was the seamless garment always a scam? Because I looked at the 14 senators who voted against closing debate on the question on a bill in the Senate that had passed the House on ending abortion after the 20th week, and they voted against closing debate so a vote could be taken. And these were 17 or 14 Catholic senators. Yeah. Only 2 of them Republican, including, Tim Kaine, who was touted as this great seamless garment Catholic. And he worked in the slums in South American cities, and he was educated by Jesuits. And he's like the perfect seamless garment candidate. He voted against this. So it's a scam. It's a scam. It's always been a scam as a way to bring down the life issue so that these other issues, so that, the minimum wage can become just as important. Right. And yeah, it is being revived. There's this cockamamie effort called the new pro-life movement, yes, and these guys don't do anything. Yeah, they don't really do anything.
They just complain about pro-lifers not doing enough.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. I would love it if liberal pro-lifers who somehow find an allegiance with the Democratic Party would come in and. I suggested this to one of them one day. Why don't you guys go after the insurance companies, since you hate corporations? Go after the insurance companies that fund abortion. That would be so fantastic.
It would be.
And that would be really beneficial. It's in your wheelhouse. It's pro-life. It's, anti-capital. Go do that. And they won't, because pretty much their movement is all about going after us.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's an easy caricature because they want us to be the heartless, mean, all we are is capitalists, and we use pro-life as our shield.
And we're not really pro-life. It's like if you read Mark Shea's blog at Pathos, he goes off the deep end on this kind of stuff. Yeah. That we use babies as human shields for And he says outright that that we're the party of death, that we want to kill immigrants, that we want to kill the poor, and he says it. I mean, just lunacy.
Yeah. On the UN level, so outside of America, we saw Ireland legalize abortion, all these stirrings in Argentina. It seems to me that the Pope and the bishops, when it comes to these giant tsunamis of moral policy in nations, are saying almost nothing.
Well, it's my understanding that the church got very involved in Argentina, and that was one of the reasons that we won there. I've heard one of the complaints about Ireland is that they weren't very involved. I mean, part of the problem there, and this is the devil's work, is that their credibility was shot because of all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the devil's work. And that was his intention, is to take away the credibility of the bishops so all these other things can happen. In my own work, the Holy See Mission is at the UN, and they're working on these documents all the time. The UN is actually pretty pro-life. We've been at this now for going on 21 years, and we have blocked an international right to abortion. We have blocked a redefinition of family. We have blocked the incorporation of sexual orientation and gender identity as a new category of international law. The other side isn't stopping, but for the most part, CFAM and our coalition of NGOs and the Holy See and many other member states have blocked all this.
What are the key member states that are helping y'all do that?
It depends upon the specific negotiation at that time, because it's always changing. Mm-hmm. But the African countries, I'm convinced that Africa is going to save the West. Hmm. But before Africa does that, we need to save Africa. Hmm. From who? From the European Union, from American NGOs, from American left-wing foundations. Yes. Who are trying to subvert the family and the church in Africa. But I'm absolutely convinced that Africa can save the West. CFAM, we've started making small donations. We're helping put 2 girls through school in Kenya, and we're supporting a Catholic diocese in Uganda. And I think that we're going to be doing much more of that, just as a way to encourage the Africans. And the Africans that we work with at the United Nations are brave, and these countries have smaller delegations than I have. I mean, where there are 6 of us full time, their delegations might be 2 or 3. And so we work very closely with them, almost on a staff level, to help them understand documents and the language that they ought to use. But yeah, it's the Africans who are doing the heavy lifting now. The Muslims come in, they help out a great deal, including from unsavory states. They're not pro-life in the way that we are. I think that mostly they object to radical feminists at the UN trying to tell them what to do. Mm-hmm. They're very anti-LGBT agenda, so they're very solid on that. So we work with Russia. Yeah. Don't tell the FBI. We work with Russia, and we have for years.
One of the wild cards, I kind of feel like I understand, somewhat a political allegiance and trends in Europe and Africa, East Asia, Russia, and the United States. South America, though, is completely confusing to me. And part of it has to do with because our Pope is from South America, so it's forced us to focus on that way of thinking. At the UN level, what are the South American nations asking for or pursuing? What's their deal? How does a South American think?
South America, the elites in South America believe that, they want to be like their European betters. So the elites in Latin America are very pro-abortion. They're very, anti-family and pro-gay this and gay that. But the people are pretty darn conservative. It's still a very Catholic continent. The Pentecostal movement has been growing by leaps and bounds. So there's this European influence, which is very radical. There's still some homegrown radicals, but this will blow your mind. The Sandinistas, 100% pro-life in Nicaragua, 100% pro-life. The interesting thing about the social issues look, you shrunk.
I leaned back.
You just shrunk. You went, whoa, you got very small. The left wing in Latin America can be just as pro-life and pro-family as you or me.
Right.
It's one of the weird things. Mm-hmm. I think there's like a socialist or whatever who runs Ecuador. He's pro-life and pro-family. The Sandinista is pro-life and pro-family. Many years ago, the Nicaraguan national legislature made abortion illegal for any reason. and they came under like this severe attack from Sweden and Norway, and these countries said, if you don't change this law, we're going to withhold, our money from you. And this was after the massive hurricane hit this many years ago, and the Sandinista government says, tough, we're a pro-life country. So it just depends.
Okay.
But for the most part. And during the Menem days when he was president of Argentina, they were very, very aggressive on the life issues. Some of the countries down there where abortion is truly against the law. It just depends. I mean, the thing about Latin America, it's huge, and there are lots and lots of countries. The Caribbean countries are generally quite good. The Caribbean country, one thing a lot of people don't know is take Jamaica. A lot of people don't know that a lot of the Jamaican, the reggae songs are anti-gay, explicitly anti-gay.
Like reggae music?
Like reggae music.
Yeah.
A lot of reggae stars have been banned in the UK because they're explicitly anti-gay. Yeah. And so American teenagers, over the years have been dancing to this reggae music, which is anti-gay. I mean, really anti-gay.
Yeah.
So the Caribbean nations are quite conservative on life issues, on family issues. It just depends. But Europe has spent a boatload of money there. China has spent billions of dollars building relationships. We had a conference in Costa Rica now many years ago, and near our hotel was this massive soccer complex. And when we were there, happened to be the open day of this, and there were fireworks. And I said, "What is that?" And they said, "That was a gift of the Chinese government. Easily $1 billion facility." Yeah. So they're very busy. And the problem is the United States has let it slide. The United States, you'd think under Bush, who's, or somebody would have made Latin America a priority, but they're letting it slip away in Venezuela and elsewhere.
To the Chinese?
Well, in Venezuela, to hardcore authoritarian communism.
Yeah.
But in terms of Chinese influence, I think that they're just buying influence down there.
Yeah.
How this plays out at the UN is, most Latin American countries are not very. They're not very good allies ever. Like I said, some in the Caribbean, but for the most part, no. Yeah. One of the things that helps a lot is when, back in the original Cairo conference days and the Beijing conference days, and JP2 was there, Navarre Valls was there, they would be very aggressive in sending out what are known as démarches, which are, messages from the Vatican foreign minister to their colleagues saying, this is what we want your help to do it. And so I'll tell you what, whenever the Vatican sends out démarches on a UN negotiations, we win. But they haven't done it in a very long time.
How long? How long has it been? We're talking decades, 5 years, 10 years?
Well, during Rio +20, I think, and I don't remember who, I guess Benedict was Pope then. Okay. They sent out démarches, and we won a massive negotiations at Rio +20. But I think not since then. So since
Francis.
Benedict. Yeah.
Okay.